Hello, beautiful. How are you? And how are you taking care of yourself today? I am Heidi Esther, a storyteller and a joy coach, and here to welcome you to another Grow Your Joyful Life foundational Playshops. Who am I and why am I here talking to you? Think of me like if Mr. Rogers and Captain Marvel had a baby. And that person loved storytelling and baking chocolate chip cookies. So, because I can't bake chocolate chip cookies for everyone, I am here to bring you my storytelling shiniest, playful tools and transformative inner lessons with my stories to help you ditch all of those things blocking your heart from feeling the joy that you were divinely created to feel. Heart blocks like exhaustion and busyness and guilt and regret. And today we have what I think is a very foundational workshop, and it's on burnout. I have experienced it. You may have experienced it, or maybe experienced it and not even known it. I think I've burnt out multiple times in my life, but I've only noticed like the last two. Um, because why is it so important? You were created for to feel good, to have well-being, to enjoy your beautiful life. You were divinely created to tap into that joyful flow that comes with just loving and being aligned with everything you're doing. Even the hard stuff you can feel in flow. So, beautiful. Are you ready to put your happiness first and move towards living in joy and feeling more well-being in your life? Even when your kids are still at home and they just woke up 2 minutes before your noon podcast. I know, teenagers, right? So if you hear anything in the background, it's probably them on their block rockin' beats or my dogs who are hanging out with them. So, all right. So that's a little bit about who I am. And I would love to know how you are and how you are taking care of yourself today. Me, I am wearing my brand new shoes. I got a new pair of saddle shoes for when I'm out and about in town. And they're very minimal saddle shoes, actually, not like the super fancy kind from the 50s, but they are the black and white kind. And they just make me feel goofy and funny and empowered. And I just, even though I'm not wearing them out anywhere today, I just really wanted to wear them. How I'm taking care of myself, I also have a giant mug of peppermint tea. So I love myself some peppermint tea. I would love to know whether you're watching live or in the replay, how you are and how are you taking care of yourself today. Yes, I start every one of my sessions like that. I think it's important to do a check-in to see how you're doing. And you can do this with yourself multiple times a day. Like, how am I doing? How am I feeling? How can I take care of myself? Am I feeling a little frazzled? Do I need a break? Am I feeling really energized? And my day is flying by, and I'm just going to pause and soak in some of this great feeling that I have. So, also, another quick note, please send me your questions on burnout. And if you have any other questions on how you can more powerfully live into, get rid of those blocks and build the foundational building blocks for for a journey to your joyfully ever after, you can always email me at howdy@heidi@stir.com, or you can go to heidi@stir.com/contact me and fill out a form. All right. So today we are talking about burnout. So in all my play shops, I talk about a story. So I want to share with you a little story called the Loving Mirror Walk. I walked next to a friend in the crisp late fall air. The heat generated from the first 2 miles let me know I'd probably need a shower when I got home, no matter how much I vented my coat. A fellow prolific creative, heart centered mama and woman finding her way to her own joyfully ever after was walking next to me. Yep, we never tire of topics to connect over. And as an Enneagram 2, I invited her to share her recent experiences first and create that safe container for friendships. Now, I used to think I did this because I didn't think that much of myself, but now I know I do because it's my nature. It's just who I am. I love creating that safe, soft container where people can feel seen and heard. But as we started our second mile, she stopped and turned towards me and stated, Heidi, I don't know if I could do what you do, sit and create those stories every day at the same time and put out a story a week. Yep, I'd been doing stories every week for about a year and a half. I was pretty proud of myself. But as she said this, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. My legs turned as heavy as anchors, and I caught my breath. I could tell my defensiveness, also known as ego, kicked in as my insides were pointing me towards something I already knew. Like one of those 1950s arrow diner signs or like, do, 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 eat here, do, do, do. Well, I sat down and wrote my book at the same time every day, and it's a routine that feeds my joy of writing. So I could tell that was my ego speaking back. But then I paused and a softening occurred. I have felt like butter scraped over too much bread lately. The more vulnerable inside part of me shared. The next day, I sat down to write a poem about this and a story, and I couldn't. And the day after, I just immersed myself in like 12 straight hours of housework. And the next day, guess who woke up? Passive, aggressive, resentful Heidi. All full of snarky Valley Girl comments like that will ever happen, and not like they care about me, and God, why can't my teenagers parent themselves? And they circled my brain like a squeaky merry-go-round. I self-edited so much, I swear I was like in super introvert land. And the day after that was Monday, when everybody left the house to go to work. I couldn't open my laptop. It felt like it was like 2,000 pounds. And instead of letting my head go into a death to Heidi's new career spiral, also known as quitting, I made healthy food and took 2 naps. That's all I did. And then the next day, I woke up and I just cried for a long time. Yep, I had a breakdown. I spent the rest of the week pretty much eating and napping. And the next week, I started wondering what was going on with me. A word immediately came to the forefront of my head: burnout. I'd never thought about that before. It reminded me I've been blogging for 18 months, podcasting for 7, growing Facebook for 12, and co-hosting a YouTube show and Facebook group for 3. My focus had been on those things, trying to be more helpful, trying to be more visible for more people. But you know what? I was growing too slowly to help, at least in the monetary sense, to get even more help. Because once you get, a certain amount of income, then you need a certain amount of help. But I wasn't getting a certain amount of income, so I wasn't getting a certain amount of help. So I was doing all the things. The hard truth, I knew I couldn't keep it all up, no matter how much I wanted to. Okay, so that is the start of my loving mirror story. Okay, so, that let's see, what is burnout and what isn't it? Okay. So, I am a person who has experienced anxiety, experienced depression, experienced postpartum depression, and experienced burnout. So, how do you know what burnout is and what it isn't? So, I do want to let you know if you want to know more about the big causes of burnout, some systemic woman related causes of burnout, I highly recommend Emily and Amelia Nagoski's book on burnout about completing the stress cycle. That was very helpful as I was trying to get to the root of it. Also, if you are a creative, Becca Syme has a couple books called Dear Writer, You Need to Quit and Dear Writer, Are You in Burnout? Also very helpful. I can also talk to you more about those if you just want to ask me questions. Totally cool with that. So, burnout. So, this is what I felt when I realized I was in burnout. Every day I'd wake up and there's this scene in the never ending story. It's at the very end where the princess, who's now like the empress, this tiny little girl, woman child, she everything is black around her. Like the whole universe has just been completely destroyed by this thing called the nothing. And so she's just in this void of space. And she opens up her hand and she shows the hero of the story. She shows him the last grain of sand from the old world that was destroyed. And it's this beautiful little shiny grain of sand. And it's sparkly. And you knew that because there was that grain of sand still in your hand, there was hope. There's still hope. So that's how I felt when I was in burnout. I felt that I couldn't do anything, that everything had gone dark, that everything had gone away. But deep inside of me, there was this grain of hope. There was my shiny joy and my vision for my mission for what I was put on this earth to do. That was still there in the palm of my hand. There was no energy to accompany it, no movement I could do because I was in a void. But I knew that that was still there. So that is the main difference between burnout to me and depression. Depression, there was no shiny grain of sand. It was just kind of like this compressing feeling of hopelessness and that things were never going to change. This compressing gray sky when the clouds make you feel claustrophobic when you walk out of the door. That is the feeling more in depression. Like it's just not going to change and everything is kind of suffocating and there's no point. In burnout, you have that, you still have that inner fire, even if it's just a tiny spark. You don't have anything to fuel it or anything to move it around. You know it's still there. So, what can you do? So, I have actually created a downloadable printable for this Playshop. And if you want to skip the rest of this chat, you can go to HeidiEsther.com/burnout and go grab it. I think burnout is so pervasive and we don't talk about it enough because we just live in it. We learn to normalize it and say, This is what it's supposed to be like. Life is supposed to be hard because that being hard means it's worthwhile. It has to be worthwhile if it's hard. So, um, we just kind of live in this burnout, and we do these things that we know are exhausting, but we feel that that's the way to go. So, I'm here to let you know that's not the way to go. You can still live in a state where things are they're easier, and you feel a little more joy and a little more spaciousness, and you have energy to just enjoy things. So, there are two parts to my burnout balm. One is loving yourself, and the second one is quitting forward. So when you're in burnout, it's really, really hard to think about doing anything or anything extra to your list because, in essence, you've been moving forward and giving of yourself without recharging. So you'd been slowly and slowly sliding down and depleting. And during that fall, before I was in burnout, I remember I always was saying to myself, I feel like butter stretched over too much bread. Maybe I need to take another nap today, and and I didn't quite understand what was happening, but I would just have this slow slide of energy. And I remember I'd started the fall and I'd had a pretty regular yoga practice of a few days a week. And then it was just like gone in November, is completely gone. And then in early December was my big slide into burnout. So the first thing you need to do is I call it loving you. So there are three steps in loving you. Okay. You can't put more on if you're just completely drained, right? It's like you can't run a car if it has no gas. It's just ain't gonna work no matter how much you want to make it happen. So fill first. So taking just whittle it down to something manageable. Take care of yourself and accrue so you can start to accrue, like add in more energy than you're using. Like I would wake up and I would eat like half a whole wheat bagel with peanut butter on it. Like not in my usual diet of beans and rice in the morning, but it was like that's what I needed. So I needed to you got to figure out how to fill yourself up first, so that you can start to accrue those energy gains so you can get back to a place where you can kind of like you've slid all the way down the mountain and you've lost your perspective. And so we're going to climb back up to a place where we have somewhat of a vantage point. But to do that, you need energy. And so don't judge yourself. Just do what you got to start asking yourself. Self-awareness is so important in this moment. So ask yourself, all right, how can I take care of myself today? How can I show myself some love today? Move your body or don't as you feel called to. Take naps or take walks or take baths, or meditate or just sing your favorite sad songs or happy songs. So to make room for this, you got to clear some of your calendar. So kind of treat it like an illness. Like you have an illness, you have a lack of energy, similar to like a cold, but it's kind of like, um, you know, you've been stretching your shiny buttery soul over too much bread. So, and you gonna need more energy. So you've been overspending and not putting enough into your energy account in there. So treat yourself like you got like a short-term injury. So give yourself a couple weeks maybe. Clear your calendar of anything super extraneous. Just get back to super basics. Ask for whatever help that you can muster, just to give yourself create some margin in your life to create some more energy in taking care of yourself because you are worth it. Yes, you might have kids, you might have a job. You need to figure out how to whittle those down ask for help from your spouse or from your neighbor or from your bestie or from people at church or in your yoga class, whatever you need to do, right? So fill yourself up. get those energy gains so you can start walking up that mountain, so you can start to see where you're at. Okay. Now, in my coaching, I talk a lot about resilience. So the different components of building a resilient mindset because having a self awareness, right, and taking care of yourself so important. But step two here is resilience. You're gonna have to acknowledge that like this is gonna be a process, and you're gonna need to bring some resilient tools along with you. So it's not a straight line. You might go up a little bit and slide back down. But the goal here is to keep filling yourself up, clear out your calendar, and then acknowledge that you need to bring some compassion for yourself, forgiveness that you are not going to get as much done as you were. You're not going to get anything done, honestly, if you continue your burnout, right? So patience, forgiveness, compassion, curiosity, right? Trying new or different things that, if your body's like all of a sudden, like, I just really want to eat some cashews and I really need grapefruit. Okay, you know what? Put those on the grocery list. Get cashews and grapefruit. So good. They can be pretty delicious. I wouldn't probably recommend them together, but you know what? They're both very nutritious in their own ways. What else? Consistency. So you might slide back down. You might have days where it just feel much, much worse than the day before. That's fine. Those are all signs that, things are moving and shifting all around. So I would suggest that you create a mantra like, I am compassionate and patient, or I invite curiosity in each day to see where I need to be or how I need to love myself. Or I take steps forward to feel better about myself and my life. Something along that lines. Resilience. All right. So this is probably one of my favorite steps because it's about peeling your onion. And if you haven't heard me talk about peeling your onion, I will talk a little bit about peeling your onion in after this play shop because it's awesome. Right. So the third step is aligning. So aligning, I call aligning for success. So you are a magnificent, unique experience of humanity. My abundance mentor, Alexandra Takeda, likes to call it, you are one of one. I know, right? Not one of 7 billion, not one of 4 people in your family. You are one of one. You have a peculiar genius and peculiar preferences and peculiar self care needs and a peculiar personality, right? And because of that, no one in this whole wide world is going to know what is best for you than you. No one else is going to know how that you can align things to take care of yourself better and to fill yourself up with joy better than you. And no one else has the genius that you do. Yeah, you can go ahead and write it down. You have a peculiar genius. I love that because it's like wacky, weird, and unique all in one. You have your own vision. You were divinely created with a vision and a joyful purpose and to live in this flow and happy place. So, in this step, you'll need to think about what kind of time you need going forward, right? So, this is after you have taken care of yourself for a little while and don't feel like you just can't move out of your bed, right? Let that time, you just need to take care of yourself. You need to watch, Buffy the Vampire Slayer reruns until you feel like super powerful again, and build up those resilience mantras, right? Like, I'm going to meet each day with curiosity, and I'm going to take a step forward, a tiny step forward. I'm going to be compassionate like Mother Teresa. I'm going to forgive myself for getting to this place because it was just on your path. You had to learn some kind of lesson. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It just means you had to learn some kind of lesson. And so apparently, you're going to have to learn about burnout. Okay. So in the download at heidiester.com/burnout, you can write down how you need to take care of yourself every day going forward that you think will fill you up, right? This is just a starting point. This is not like a final thing to get right or wrong. This is just like something you're going to have to figure out and be loose with. So taking care of yourself. So in terms of taking care of your physical body, taking care of your emotional state, taking care of your needs for connection, your spiritual needs. So spiritual, physical, emotional, um, financial, right? Taking care of all those needs. So what do you need? What kind of time do you need to do for those, right? And then, um, and then you can also write down like what kind of time do you need to like when you get in these states? Like think about time like every couple weeks or every month or so, the time that you need to carve in additionally to recuperate and restore, right? Because if you're say you're a highly sensitive person or you're introverted or you like to take giant walks in the woods that's like an hour out of town, right? Or you really really like hot baths like me. Like every couple weeks or so or however often you need them, like you're going to need extra time to do those special things. Like I used to go on a yoga retreat every month or so, and you know that was something that I chunked in time for every once in a while that was still super beneficial to keeping my shininess up. So not only do you have the daily, you have the every few weeks or every month or so kind of stuff. So, and also under alignment, think about when you feel you do your best work. I had a writing mentor. Her name's Dawn Matafusco, and she said she used to write overnight. Like she would just get ready for the day around noon, and then she would just write overnight. And then she would basically sleep all morning. And that's how she did life. And that's how she was best aligned for her best work. Me, I love getting up, doing a meditation, and doing my writing. I'm a morning person, right? I don't begrudge her for not knowing what's best for me. I just had to listen, like, all right, well, she found what's best for her, and maybe what time is best for me during the day, right? Okay. So, all right. So in peeling your onion, we talk a little bit more about how to align, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. All right. So loving you. The three parts of loving you is the filling up and the making sure you building your resilience and aligning. Okay. And so now we're going to go into our second part of our burnout balm called quitting forward. Now, these are some pretty hunky steps, so I'm going to be somewhat brief about them because you can just download all the ins and outs of them. And all right, so let's get started. So, quitting forward. When you're in burnout, it's basically like you're doing too much that's out of alignment for you, right? You got to fit in. Your first priorities are going to be finding how you can align with your life, right? Going to that last step of loving you. The part one is, figuring out how you're going to take care of yourself every day so that your cup is continually, you're inputting more energy so that you can climb up the mountain, right? And not keep going on these slides down, slides down, slides down until you hit the rock bottom of burnout. Okay. So I go through a 6-step journey about taking your top 3 roles. So this be roles because it'd be like, I'm a mom and I'm a coworker and I'm a spouse, or top 3 goals and then so taking those 3 roles and 3 goals in your life, and then on 3 different pieces of paper, you write down as many things as you need to do to be successful in that role or goal. Okay. And then this where it gets really fun. So step 2 is question the premise. So I have to do a hats off to Becca Syme for in her book, Dear Writer, You Need to Quit, is Chuck's all about QTP, which is question the premise. And if you want a full download of QTP and questioning the premise, please read that book. But if you'd like the short version of it, just question, do you really need to do all that to accomplish that goal of being like a mom? Say, like, do I need to get a master's to apply for that job? Do I? Do I need to wake up every morning and make my kids a hot lunch to be a responsive, caring mom? Do I need to pick up my kids from school every day, even though they're teenagers and school's only like a half a mile away and they also have bikes? Do I need to do these things? Right? So you question the premise of everything you're doing, and then you're going to find out what was kind of extra and what is essential. Like for my job, like I had to do all these things around visibility because I was doing so much visibility work, like with the YouTube channel and writing my stories every week. And I wasn't like, and checking into my Facebook communities, but I wasn't building any of those channels, right? I was just kind of like maintaining really low levels on them. So I wrote down, do I need to check into 8 Facebook communities to grow my platform? Do I need to keep being visible in all these different ways to grow my platform? And then around Christmas, I was like, do I need to bake everything from scratch for Christmas to be considered like doing Christmas right? The answer is no and no. Or do I need to put on a certain amount of makeup to feel pretty? Right? We're taught that we need to have makeup on to look appropriate. But do we? Or to look pretty? No. So there was this kid in my middle school, and I didn't have many classes with him. I kind of wish I did. His name was Ryan D. April. And I saw him at my 25th reunion, and he was that kid in class who would just kind of like, he was either like completely checked out or he would ask like these annoying questions. Like, why do we have to learn this? And why, what is this good for? And like, what is this going to teach me for growing up and, getting a job? And we'd always like roll our eyes when he like asked these questions. But guess what? He was that guy at the reunion who came in. He had like a Mike Tyson style entourage around him, and he had figured it out. He had like grew his own real estate empire, like in the Chicago suburbs. So he's like massively successful. You could tell he was like super happy. He did it his own way. He questioned the premise. Now, I didn't get to talk with him because of his little paparazzi situation. I had some other feelings going on that prevented me from reaching out to him. But anyway, he questioned the premise. He's like, do I have to be a real estate agent this way? Why can't I do it this way? And he went and did it his way. And then he was successful, right? He aligned what he wanted to do with how he wanted to show up. You could tell that man was full. He is full of joy and he was full of energy, like he wasn't anywhere near burnout. So, Ryan D. April, if you ever end up watching this, hats off to you. I would love to hear about your story. Okay. So once you question everything, then here's the fun part. Okay. Cross off whatever is not necessary. Things that are seemingly helpful, maybe they aren't. So from one angle, they totally look legit because other people are doing them. Like, yes, I have so many friends who make gingerbread houses with their kids over Christmas. Sounds like the great Christmas bonding experience. But even the thought of buying a gingerbread house, like, makes me break into a cold sweat. And it's like checking into those 8 Facebook communities. Like, it seems like everyone else is who's like kind of shining their light is checking into Facebook communities. So I should do that, right? But is it helpful? Do I need to do them? Am I doing them because of other people are doing them? So cross off the stuff that is not helpful. So sometimes there are stuff that is not helpful that still needs to get done, like let's just say laundry, right? So this is how we move into the next step is help. I think this is the hardest step, asking for help. We all need help. We're part of, we are independent, beautiful parts who also need to be interwoven into others' lives so that they can help up what is one man's bane is another man's peculiar genius, right? So by you letting go of that stuff that you used to do, say like clean your house, is another man's livelihood and business. Like there's house cleaning businesses out there. So by letting other people help you, it lets other people shine and it keeps you more in your happy place, right? And it's going to keep you from the burnout. So, very, very important. Hardest step, highlight for help for sure. Okay. So, sometimes you just can't like figure it out. So, it might be time to make a post-it. So, this is what I call the post-it note exercise. And so you can it's about revisiting those top 3 roles or goals to see if maybe one of those roles or goals is not serving you at all whatsoever. And so I have an exercise about kind of detaching from that label that you're giving yourself, like, I have to be this, and seeing if it frees up space for you, which could be very transformational. Maybe you want to move away from that label. Maybe you want to move away from that relationship. Maybe that is the relation. Maybe that is what is causing you burnout. Maybe not having boundaries in your relationship at work is what's causing you burnout. So you either need to move away from that label entirely of being like that helpful subordinate or helpful team member, or have some tough conversations, right? To keep you from, having to answer your emails at like 10 o'clock at night. Okay. And so the last step is the action step. So figure out what you're going to quit and go quit it. Kind of start to peel off all those things that don't serve you, that aren't going to serve you. All right. For the full meal deal, you can go to HeidiEsser.com/burnout. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about peeling your onion. I am moving into coaching. I am a joy coach, and part of that is helping people peel their onion. So, what is peeling your onion? So, it's finding and discovering all of the beautiful layers that you are and have as a unique, peculiar genius. So, there's like the outer layers are like your relationships with others and your hard skills. Your like somewhat inside layers have to do with like your personality and what your human design is, like how you were made. Like I was made to be a highly sensitive person. Um, any physical quirks and challenges also go in those middle categories. And then you have like a mind, body, spirit wholeness layer, which is like what you need to do to take good care of your mind, body, um, and spirit. So, like, how does spirituality or religion, how does that incorporate into your life and make you feel more whole and more loved? And at the very bottom are your core values, your core beliefs, and your shiny, shiny, joyful purpose. So when all of your layers are aligned, you can step into your joyful purpose. So here's a quick example. Before I was the age of 33, I pretty much thought that I was a straight human, straight woman. And that layer on the inside was not straight. I was gay. But so my inside layer was butting up against my outside layer of being a wife to a man. And so I had this giant discord, and I knew there was a discord there because once I accepted the fact that I was gay, there was this big resolution inside of me, this big calmness that washed over me like, "Oh, that's what I was missing." I wonder, and that realization was what started me on my journey to like, "Oh, if I didn't know that about myself, like what else don't I know about myself?" Right? And after I got over shame, then I was able to start peeling back other layers on a 12-year transformative journey, where I kind of went from a doormat of a person to someone who's living into their joyful, aligned purpose. And I can help you um, create that resilience that we talked about earlier. I can help you peel back those layers and find more alignment and joy in your life. I can help you figure out what is so stressful in your life and resolve that, because it might have to do with your layers. Um, it might have to do with a lack of support. So I can help you figure out how to achieve more with leaning more into supportive relationships in your life. And also, I can help you figure out what you need to let go of in your life so that you can step more into what you were meant to have. So, all right. So that's a little bit about peeling your onion. If you want to have a coffee chat or a little Zoom chat with me, you just email me at howdy@heidiester.com, or you go to heidiester.com/contact me and let me know you'd like to have a chat. All right. So the last thing is the Snowman of Affirmation. I have a beautiful little glass jar here in the shape of a snowman full of orange and yellow and green and pink notes. And I'm going to pick an affirmation for you as you contemplate whether or not you have burnout. And the Snowman of Affirmation is usually pretty on point. Oh, there you go. I am a human in progress. See? In progress, taking care of yourself away from burnout. Okay, beautiful. I hope that you found something that was enjoyable. I would love to know what you thought. Just put them in the comments or email me at howdy@heidiester.com. I look forward to seeing you soon and wishing you much love, light, and laughter. Until next time, I'm Heidi Esther.